we are Kaful. I'm Shafiq.
My name is Haris.
I'm James.
I'm Abdullah.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Asad.
So let me start off by asking, what's wrong? Here's what's wrong. Students are skipping class. Professors spend a lot of time and effort trying to, and a lot of hard work ensuring to be on time, present a productive lecture, and make sure that the students understand and all. And it can get really discouraging over time to see the attendance drop from 100% to 20. So that is the problem. And there have been attempts to fix this by eye clickers, and at times it ends up like this, where you have one student who ends up bringing 9 eye clickers to class for 8 of his pals. So there is a reason we feel that students skip class, like a number of them, but the crowning one is this. It follows this pattern. So students get overwhelmed and anxious of the material in class, and so they try to walk away. They feel disconnected, and once they get disconnected, they don't value attending the lecture, and that ends up making them just skip more classes, and the cycle repeated. It just gets worse over time. So we want to fix this problem by addressing the get disconnected part. Now, the irony in this whole situation of students skipping classes, most of the time, or usually, even when students get disconnected, it helps to attend the lecture, because you walk out of the lecture knowing more than, feeling less confused than you were earlier. But unfortunately, students don't do that. So to address that, we have.
I'm not a professor, but we did speak with a few professors, and Shafiq already touched on this a little bit, but actually we spoke to one professor in particular, and actually what they said was quite touching, in the sense that as a professor, you're generally talking about something that is genuinely interesting to you, and you're trying to engage your students, and you're putting on a performance, at least they said. And when people stop showing up, it's as Shafiq said, it's really hard to get discouraged. So we showed the negative feedback loop that can develop in a student's brain, but I mean, I can only imagine this kind of thing happens in professors' minds as well. And so what we've been doing is we want to make the classroom experience more interactive, and so we've come up with a way that allows students to communicate with each other, and then the professor included, seamlessly, interactively, in real time, just to make it better. So let's do a live demo. So let's say that Asad over here, he's just, okay, so let's open up the app first and look at that, this cool launch screen. Alright, real quick. So I mean, we'll all have accounts, typically for now linked to your, like, McMaster in our case, but university email or something like that. So.
And in the future, we plan to integrate with different schools, so we can use their own system, like Avenue for McMaster, and so they can have easy access to the system.
Integrating with the registrar, for instance, right?
So let's log in. So the first feature we have is chalkboards. These are all your list of courses that you're taking right now, and a list of courses that you might take or you're taking, or courses that you might take after. And so let's suppose that I'm a student and I'm going to my geography class. I arrive at my lecture and I open my chalkboard screen of geography. Now this is my geography dashboard where I can see all my status, I can see my attendance, my quizzes, and my feedback. And I can also know my instructors, my TAs, so I can reach out to them for any questions or any feedback. And I know when my lecture times are. Now, let's suppose that we...
So he showed up to class now, and so basically class needs to get started. And so for this demo, we're actually introducing this cool new topic. I don't want to point it out, but we have physics over here. It's actually physics and geography. It's this new thing we're going to be doing next year. Okay. Let's just go. All right. So we're going to go live. Basically, that's what happens when a professor decides to start class, right? So you'll notice, if you're paying attention there, that join now is actually up in green here. So that just indicates that a class is actually in session, and basically you can join it right now.
So let's join our class.
And so first, basically, to do the attendance bit, for now we're doing a 4-digit code. So as soon as you join, the professor is going to put up on screen or something like that a code that they need to send in, basically to confirm that you are there. And it's kind of a lax method right now. We'll look into more things later. So as you can see, the professor right now is actually a live monitor just showing that a student connected. So it's just showing kind of events as they happen. So the next thing, and something that actually comes up a lot, and I can personally relate to, a lot of people I think can relate to, is that in class, one of the ways that a professor gets feedback from students is when he just asks, or she just may ask people to raise their hand, right? And it's not always easy, especially if you're kind of the shyer type, to raise your hand. You don't want to be that guy where it's kind of like, hey, who doesn't get it? And like, you raise your hand. There we have a feature in the app to raise your hand basically anonymously. So that's what Asad's doing right now. So he's raising his hand and he's basically asking a question. I'm saying the mic is not working, right? So send that, and then again, the professor is getting that live, so the professor can see all these events as they're coming in. Yeah. So the next part is basically asking questions, doing some grading. So we can ask a question, pre-populate. So like this, very pertinent question to everything. So it's So there you go, and you submit the answer, and again on the live monitor, you'll see the professor is getting these answers and storing them so that later you can export them for viewing, for further processing or whatever. And you can also just ask impromptu questions, right, as you might expect. Yeah.
Yeah, so while we're doing lectures, we have a component where you can chat with your classmates during the lecture. So if you open up the chat button, this is your class chat. So you can talk to your peers if you have any questions, if you need any tips, or if you can't see the board, you can just ask them in the class chat.
So here we should have our Android client talking to our iOS client here. So Shafiq's also attending this class, apparently. So yeah, so really what we're doing here is basically, you could almost call it augmented reality, without the camera, right? Because really what we are doing is trying to augment this, in reality classroom experience, right? This physical experience. Okay. Okay, and so I think that's it for our live demo. Okay, so we are a software-only project, and so to kind of so we try to target as many platforms, for instance, as we could, and in addition to that, perhaps pick some technology choices that were kind of diverse, maybe not for the sake of diversity, but perhaps to pick the right tool for the job. So on the back end, we're using mostly Clojure and Clojure script, and where we're using databases, we're using Postgres. On Android,
we use the Kotlin programming language, which is a more concise version compared to Java. Android Studio was used as a primary development environment, and Google Play was used for deployment.
And for the iOS side, we developed everything on the iPhone and MacBooks. We used Swift coding language for all the coding, and we used the App Store to upload our application for everyone. Okay, so now we gave you the professor viewpoint and the student viewpoint, but you might ask what research backs this up, or why are we doing this? So one study was done with, for one class, there was a professor. He was like a very well-renowned professor, and he was the control experiment, which is the light gray grades. So he's been teaching this class for a long time, and he had a simple way of teaching it. Just come in, do a lecture, and then leave, and then midterms and assignments. And then there was a new TA who took over, which was the experimental boxes. The TA, the only different thing the TA did was weekly quizzes, or every class there was a little quiz just to test you and keep you up to date. An interesting thing happened, which was the average for the TA's class for the same course was significantly higher. And this proves our point of the need for interaction between students and professors, and it's very important to quiz students or just keep them interested, and as well just keep their skills sharp for the course.
So building our product, our primary market are universities, so they are our clients. Over the next coming semesters, we intend on building and enhancing this app that we've built. For future, students and professors will be dictating will be providing feedback for our product so we can further enhance it. And we intend on developing Cthulhu so it can be used by any university or any educational institution that has a normal classroom setting.
So I guess now we can open up to questions.
Oh, yeah. Just one point. Our team has put in a lot of effort into it. We do intend on launching this in the coming few months, and we are reaching out to professors because we believe that this can only work based on on professors' teaching methodology. So professors, our ideology in building this is build something which the professors want. And so if any professors here are interested, they can reach out to us at info@chalkspaces.com. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Why did you choose the name?
Funny story. So Cthulhu happens to be a monster from this novel by H.P. Lovecraft, a horror genre, and at the time we were looking for some mythological creature which has not been already used for a startup, but it gets deeper than that. Here's what we thought. So if we get deep into the Cthulhu mythos, Cthulhu is supposed to represent depression, anxiety, and futility, all those kinds of feelings which students experience at university over time. And so in facing Cthulhu, facing your Cthulhu is like facing your fears. And so that's why we thought we'll call it Cthulhu. Thanks. Yes, please.
Do you have any tracking information? So students are logging into this. Do you store information about what they do?
So we store information about the answers they submit, the attendance. If you saw the attendance code, if they don't have the proper attendance code, they don't get an attendance mark. There's quizzes, so every lecture you can, I can actually show you the, actually you probably don't have it, but lectures, quizzes, oh yeah, the chat history, yeah.
If the concern is privacy, we use end-to-end encryption to ensure that even that no data is leaked, so that there is full privacy in the app, in the chats, and also the grades and whatnot.
Okay, and how do you validate that it's the right student?
Right. So that's
Their user account. They have to log in, and based on their credentials, we associate an ID with them, and then we give them marks or etc. based on ID.
The Indians who are honestly locking computers.
Well, that'd be a briefcase full of phones now. With account information, it's like you can only do so much to discourage people from wanting to, take their.
Also, the information is from, we would extract it from Avenue or Mosaic. It would be the same as your McMaster ID, and based on the respective school, we would use the information.
So when we reached out to professors, one opinion that was shared with us was that that some professors are moving away from the idea of having this attendance system for grading, and some are in favor of it. So seeing that there was a conflict of interest, we decided to include this feature as an optional, if at the professor's discretion. If they want, then they can use the attendance feature.
So we're also thinking of even doing geolocation, but then sometimes you don't get signal in here and it's hard. Then there was another idea of having a Bluetooth connection, like a device that they can connect to via Bluetooth, but then not everyone has a Bluetooth phone. It's a hard problem, and generally I think, but most of our competitors, they go to Good Samaritan. Like they expect the students to be a little fair. Like we put up that attendance code, right? You can just send it to your friends, really, and that just breaks the system. So there is a bit of Good Samaritan in there. And there isn't any product out there that has solved this fully. iClicker maybe, but iClicker you can give it to your friends. So it still breaks.
Can we perhaps?
So I saw the feature where you can raise your hand with a question.
Yep.
What I didn't see was real-time feedback to the professor.
Oh, it was not.
Oh, it was on the screen over there. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No, I'm actually referring to, so I've sent out a quiz. You
Yeah.
guys have all responded A, B, C, or D.
Yes.
It's recorded, but I didn't get to see that 75% of the people were right. So I know whether or not to stress that.
Okay, so we weren't, that's a good point. And for sure something that
It
we,
was on the iOS, but we
It was on
didn't
the
show it on the professor front end, but the lecture summary was there. You want to do this?
Offline.
Yeah, so
Oh yeah, oh we didn't show this.
there we go. Important feature, right?
yeah, live demos, right?
So the challenges with adoption of this chat and everything else. One of the clear things, even in business, is about getting distracted and being focused on what you're trying to deliver. So, and I understand that everyone has their phones, everyone's used to multitasking, but what kind of research have you done on the distraction factor, like all those heuristics around? Is it too distracting versus enough functionality to have interaction, meaningful interaction?
I can only answer that subjectively based on my experience as a student. And what I've noticed that Avenue has its own mailing system. People use Facebook. Now there's what's Piazza? Like some professors do Piazza. Like everyone uses their own thing, right? So it's already such a distracted environment. There's so many solutions. Every course has their own thing. Some websites aren't on Avenue. Some professors do their own websites. So it's pretty distracted in terms of the solutions professors use to communicate with their students. And we found they don't work too well. In terms of being inside, so in terms of that, I think our product would solve that problem because it's just one place where you can do all your communication with your professor and also do real-time, the whole feedback, assessment, etc. But in terms of in-class distraction, if that's what you're talking about, people have their phones already, that's already a problem, right? That's not a problem we're trying to solve, but what we do find, I think what we do well is that we don't purposefully distract the students. If they have something on the board they can't tell, they can just quickly message their classmates, what is that symbol beside f of x? Delta, something like this. So it's not it's like a gun. You can use it for good things or bad things. That's technology. And we have not made it any worse by adding these apps to the market. And so the research we showed, That's like one of many research. It's basically saying that assessment is a good thing. Like continuous assessment is a good thing because it makes sure the student knows where he's at, and the professor can also tell which parts of the course is the class struggling with. Yeah. I hope I answered.
If raising your hand is anonymous, how do you deal with students spamming, for example?
So there can be trivial ways to kind of deal with this kind of thing, and that's that are present in any like real-time chat system. So you could just throttle people, right, from sending too many things. So you could, you could pretty much get as creative as you want with that, like inappropriate language. How would you deal with that? All sorts of things. So there is some sort of trust factor. If in a university environment, these are university students, you expect perhaps a little bit of decency.
Yeah, you think so.
Right. So there you go.
All right, we'll do one more, and then I think we got to call it and keep going. So.
Sure.
So I see that you have an iOS app and an Android app. Why did you choose to develop on those platforms as opposed to doing something like a web-based solution that could be cross-platform?
Kind of because we're software engineering students and we wanted to kind of explore the native solutions on the platforms, right? Yeah, React Native and stuff like that. We could have made the whole thing in JavaScript if we wanted, right? But where's the fun?
Also, it's like performance-wise, it's nicer, right? Like, and also push notifications, things like that. You don't have to be like logged in. You don't have to have the Chrome app open.
Yeah, I was talking about too. There's things like Electron where you can package up a web application for a specific platform. I know that's a thing for desktop applications, but in terms of mobile, I didn't know if there would be any solutions that.
Well, if you want to do that, you have to use React and React Native, right?
You should be able to do it with any JavaScript.
Is that running natively, like on iOS? That's just running like a JavaScript.
Electron packages web applications, so it can be any JavaScript, HTML.
As a native application.
So we can you guys can shelve this conversation temporarily. I think.
Okay, thanks guys.
All right.